Hello, good morning, good afternoon, Shabbat Shalom from Rabbi Shemesh. Pretty exciting. We have things are starting to get busy. We got Purim right around the corner. You got Adar. You got the 4 weeks. You got Pesach coming around, and so it's getting pretty exciting. So this parsha we have a lot of really interesting things going on. We also have Shalom, like we said. So one of the pieces to talk about that kind of what connection perhaps is money, tzedakah, what the purpose is, what's the meaning behind it, you know, what it does for us, what it doesn't do for us. So Mishpatim starts off with Evet Ivri, and everyone always asks if you had to pick the laws that's really important. I wouldn't start with Evet Ivri. That's my least important thing because we're never going to have it in our lives. What's so important at Evet Ivri? So the Ramban says, well, the 10 Aseret Dibros. And this week we're kind of explaining some of the laws, some of the punishments, some of the parameters around it. Lo Tignov, telling us about stealing. Lo Tigzol, boom, talks about Lo Tignov, Lo Samad Echa, Lo Sachmod. So all these things really have to do with respecting people's property, respecting what you have, respecting other people, Rotseach. And if you are stealing, if you're literally committed to your tithes and you can't really fight against your tithes, it's going to lead you to be poor and you're going to have to sell yourself as a slave. So there you go. So Ramban talks about that this is kind of literally a connection of Yisro. Fantastic. Tzaddik goes a little further and says that he ties us into Shovim. We know that there's 6 weeks from Shemos until Mishpatim. That really connects us to looking at some of the pagam, some of the deficiencies of the people of Mitzrayim and how they left to get the Torah, to get out of Mitzrayim. And that's kind of what we want to do, is kind of focus on some of our pagam, some of our deficiencies, Shmer Sinayim, Lashon Hara, things like that. And we use the week to kind of get ourselves ready for Adar, Pesach. What's interesting is that Mishpatim is literally not the highlight. Theoretically, the end of Shovim should be Yisro. Start from Mitzrayim, get the Torah, Shalom Yisrael, good to go. But Mishpatim really is the last week of Shovim, Mishpatim, the Mem at the end. And the law, or the kind of the point that the Pri Tzaddik likes to talk about is Lo Nidach Mimenu Nidach. Never pushed away. Person's never pushed away from Hashem. So Mishpatim is that story, because the story starts out as someone who steals, someone who is sold, someone who, even though after 6 years he doesn't want to leave his master, he says, you know what, I can live with this non-Jewish slave. I don't have to go back to my family. I'm treated pretty nicely. Evet Ivri is treated very, very well. I'm good to go. The Torah says leave, he still stays. Such a person, you think, wow, that guy is just the worst in the world. He sold himself. He's a robber. He's a crook. He's with a non-Jewish slave. He wants to stay there. But, there's hope for that guy, because there's Yovel, and Yovel allows him to leave. And you hear the shofar, and so even though these things are really working out pretty rough for this guy, and he has a big Yetzer Hara, there's never a final point for this guy. He can always go back to do tshuva. And that's kind of what Mishpatim does, is the last part of Mishpatim shows us that there is hope. Even if you have the Torah, even if you have all these great things, you have a chance to go back. And that's Mishpatim, is a kind of a week for the Baal Tshuvas, and for us as Baal Tshuvas, to kind of go back and connect to Hashem. We have this concept of money, where this fellow stole. He now visions money is so important. He has to have more and more. Akdekach, he's going after zonas, and his tithes are too much. He has no more money left. So Parsha Shekalim really has a little bit of that. We know that Moshe didn't understand the concept of Masa Shekel. Why is it so important? You think half shekel is really not that much. It's like 20 minutes of parking. It's really not that much in Israel. It's really, parking's pretty cheap. So what's a half a shekel? Why is it so important? And the Pri Tzaddik talks about how It's really a thought process behind the money more than money itself. Zegit knew. Hashem shows Moshe the Matzah shekel. And again, what's that big deal with the coin? And the big deal is what it represents. The Matzah shekel is something where everyone contributes, and it goes to the communal karbanos and to the upkeep in the Beis Hamikdash. And by looking at money as a way to connect to people, as being equal to people, even though maybe I have more than the other person is less than me, we're all kind of on the same thing. And the money should be pooled for a common good in the Beis Hamikdash. And that's really the thought process behind Matzah shekel. Not just giving money, that's something else. There's an union to give tzedakah, and there's meiser. But when you give Matzah shekel, you're actually looking for your money to go to something, a really great purpose. And unfortunately, we don't have the Beis Hamikdash. But the Pri Tzaddik says, just like karbanos, we say karbanos in the morning, some of us. Wait up on time. We say karbanos, and hopefully the words are like we did karbanos, so do Matzah shekel. When this rolls around, this parsha rolls around, and then we hear about Matzah shekel, in a few weeks we'll be doing this, giving half a shekel, Erev Purim. It's not just, half a shekel, bing, no big deal. It's a hope that what we're doing, the money is a hope and a cheshek that we really hope to have a Beis Hamikdash, and we hope that this money is going for the greater good. So then that kind of viewing money in the right way is kind of really what's important. $1 million is great, but if it's not given in the right way, it's not that important. You can't use money to wash over other things, money washing. You can't say, the guy's a millionaire, he's great, and the person's really a bad dude. So this past week in our Kinyan Soteh, we're learning Soteh, and our Rav, our Rebbe, Rabbi Kiva Danto was feeling ill one day. So I looked over the Gemara. Okay, I'll do it. So got up early in the morning, looked over 20 lines of Gemara, Daf Daled. Not crazy, not so bad, but it's an interesting thought that really, I think, pertains to this idea as far as the importance of money and the role of money and what it isn't. So there's a pasuk, Yad Yad Lo Yinaker. So in Mishlei, it says, Yad Yad, hand to hand, won't be absolved. The question is, what does it mean? Something hand to hand won't be absolved. And the Gemara goes through a couple of different things, what it means. Maybe it means Torah. Yad Yad, no, doesn't mean Torah. Maybe Yad Yad, because Avram used the word Yad when he says Hashem, my Yad is nothing compared to Hashem. Maybe that's the point. And the verse says, no, they would have said Yadi, and in reference to Moshe, would have said Yad, miyad, from Moshe, but it says Yad el Yad, Liyad. What does that mean? So Gemara says tzedakah. Tzedakah. Even something you give tzedakah, there's not going to absolve you from Aveira. And what does that mean? Because we know other places, tzedakah is very important. Tatzam imavas. We know tzedakah lowers the anger of Hashem. So what does it mean? Tzedakah won't absolve you from an Aveira. So the Tosfos Shantz brings down this Midrash Mishlei, who has an interesting story, which is actually kosher to Gaiba. A person who goes to a Beis Zona, goes to a brothel, and as he is paying for the services, as he's leaving the brothel, he sees a poor person, and he gives that guy tzedakah, and the guy's thinking, "Wow, that's fantastic! Min Hashemayim, Hashem forgave me for the Aveira 5 minutes ago, because I spent money there, and now a minute later, I'm giving the money to a poor person, gives money to the poor person, and he goes on his way, and he thinks he's good to go." And then the Midrash Mishlei says, no, it's not really. You can't wash your Aveira with money. No money washing here. The fact you get tzedakah, fantastic. But that didn't help absolve you from your Aveira. That's something else. And the Pri Tzaddik and Ali Shor really talk about this as well. If you're strong in one midah, it doesn't mean you're good to go. If you are a good davener, fantastic. Oh, you know what? I daven well. I can speak lashon hara. It weighs out. I learn Torah in the morning. I could steal in the afternoon. Two different things. You can't kind of take your strength and use it to absolve yourself from one of your weaknesses. The point, the Pri Tzaddik says, and Ali Shor says, is to fight your weakness head on. Don't run away from it, A. And B, you can't wash it over and give it tzedakah. It's not like you just say 10 Hail Marys and you're good to go. So this is kind of really the thought behind money. Some people use money to want to wash their sins. The greatest, some of the scummiest people give money to these organizations and they think, oh, well, I gave money, I'm good to go. And then the pre-tzedakah. So I think the lesson from this is with shekalim and Mishpatim, it's kind of trying to learn to keep our tigers in check and to use our money in the right way and not to use it the wrong way. Not to think that, it can absolve you from things. You do something wrong, you have to tshuva for it. That's one cheshbon, is averos, I have to tshuva for it. And the other side is there's a mitzvah to give money. There's a mitzvah to kind of raise my money by giving tzedakah and to raise myself from this. And that's kind of our lesson for today. Shabbat shalom. Good job.